we just denied a bunch of AI note takers just out of just out of principle. So just if you had one, happy to share the transcript after. So when I first met Nathan, who you can see on the video, he was all dressed in black like he is now, but he was hunched over his desk in this dimly lit office, and he had this massive pile of paperwork behind him. And I I asked him kind of, his backstory, and he said he's an advisor. But there was something about the way that he said that didn't really spark a lot of joy. It was like he said it through gritted teeth almost. So that spark started to come back after he started to use Claris for file notes. But then his trusted paraplanner, who he'd been working with for a long time, had some personal issues to deal with. This is only sort of in the last few months, and he found himself with this ever increasing pile of this backlog of SOAs to do. Plus, he just had a massive June, and he'd taken on 20 new clients in what normally is the busiest time of the year. So that's when I got a text from him. I was pulling a late nighter here in the office, and so was Nathan. It was about 10:30 his time, and that text is what led to this webinar, because his text was, "I think I've freaking done it. I feel like Frankenstein. It's alive." And that's where the kind of inspiration for the title of our webinar has come from. So the spark was back. So he'd done 2 complex SOAs that day, and now he's got it to the point where using Claris he slashed his production time. So welcome, Nathan. Nathan's here to share his process and his insights with you, and we're going to hand over straight away to him to give you all the most amount of value from this session. But then we'll finish up with some Q&A. So please use the chat if you have some questions, and we'll try and slot them in. But Nathan, over to you, please.
Awesome. Thank you. If anyone's wondering, for the CTS listeners, this is a blend of pomegranate and strawberries and cream. But anyone who doesn't listen to the podcast will have no idea what I'm talking about. That message was quite literally exactly as it said. And keep in mind, Dr. Frankenstein, it's Frankenstein's monster. So I didn't feel like the one with the bolts. I felt like the mad scientist. And one of those things with, I think, the journey with AI, as we've probably all found, is it can be really, really good and really, really frustrating at the same time. It can be extremely insightful and helpful, and then also produce volumes of blab. Or it was one of the big issues that I'd found initially, was trying to get concise information from a non-determinative source. So determinative being, if you think about your traditional mail merge style SOA production, where we've got coded fields with variables and predetermined variables and yes, no logic chains. And that's what we've used the majority of the time in advice, which are fine, but they are hugely a massive issue to actually make. And with Jordan and I, small practice, we're sitting here going, well, do we code this SOA, or is it faster for just using template text, pasting stuff in? And this is a constant battle that advisors always have, because we end up either getting really generic stuff we've got to rewrite, or we end up spending way too much time creating way too many logic gates. And then playing around with Claris initially, and when Claris first came out, we were doing file notes, and I remember texting Stu and saying, hey, I think I've just broken it. I've managed to get it to write me a paraplanning request. And that was fairly fun, and that kind of sprouted off into things like documents and features that are in there now. And then I became a bit of a Luddite, and people started taking over and doing all this amazing stuff, and I got stuck in the weeds. So coming back and going, I need to solve this problem. I need to solve this fact find issue that we're having, getting concise information in to the concise information into a fact find in a really easy way, i.e. we dump all the documents in, hit go, we have a fact find of clarity. And then building off that and saying, like, I got that working. It stopped over explaining or over suggesting. It's just providing me what I needed. The next step was, how do I get it to be non-determinative? How do we get the AI to do what it does best, which is take swathes of information and re-deliver that in clever ways in a tone that matches what the client's after? For the Claras users, you'll know it often states things like clients will prefer lots of information, or clients in a vulnerable position, small bits of information, a lot of empathy, or things like that it picks up on. At one point, Claras picked up a non-solicited disclosure of domestic violence needs to be reported to police in a file note. So it's really good at that stuff, but it still has that AI nature of just wanting to blab and tell too much. So what I was working on and tinkering away on was, how do we get it to go to get the best out of it, but swim between the flags? Get something consistent each time that has hit all the markers, that has included all the strategy, that I don't have to edit too much. And that process started with thinking and tinkering around, how does it think and how does it work, and trying to feed into the knowledge base what is, which effectively its local brain, I guess. Hey, here's some template text, or here's some template SOAs, or here's some other things we've done. And it was drawing from them, but it was still it was hard to get it to be consistent and ensure that it included all the things that I thought were important for recommendations, for considerations, things like that. And so that was the journey of tinkering and playing around with that. And what I realized was, I kept trying to give it examples, and that's not how it responded. It responds to prompts. That's what generative AI is designed to do. So how do we prompt it? And so the first thing I did was develop a knowledge base in a way that I thought would play to how it would respond. And I'm going to share my screen now. I'm playing a little bit of a dance today, guys, because Claras, I don't have a demo account or anything. I just have my account. And if anyone's shared screens in appointments, you're just constantly paranoid that you've accidentally left a window open that has client information on it, and you're recording it. So hopefully everything's closed. Hopefully nothing's going to pop up, and you won't see client information. But this is sort of the structure of what I did with regards. I'll zoom right in for those that are watching on a phone. Of how I approached, or not so much how I approached it. This was tinkering. I just played around with different ways to prompt until I got it right. It didn't take me ages. It was a few hours, but it was dedicated time. And what I figured out was that it needed the instruction to start with. So the first thing I did was instructed it how to read the document. And for those of you, if you hear my dog at about 1 o'clock, someone's going to come to my house and he's going to go nuts. So just don't worry about it. It's fine. So how to read the document in the first place, and explaining to it what this document is, means that when I reference it later, it can marry the two things up. And to test that, if you guys want to play with this, to test that, I actually put in throughout this document Easter eggs. So I wrote here, if you have read this and used this, include the word goblins in the scope of advice in capitals. And so it did. And I forgot to delete it at one point, and I accidentally had an ROA with the word goblins in the scope of advice. So that was fun. But that's a good way to kind of just insert Easter eggs to see what it's paying attention to when it's listening, if you're going to tinker and play yourself. The foundational concept behind it was I wanted to give it instructions as to what to always include no matter what, and what to include with context. And leave that as the only information it can run off. And so within the SOA, I suppose, structure that we have, our SOAs go cash flow, superannuation and income streams, investments, estate planning. It's not strategy, live to a budget. We recommend this. You should consider this. Alternatives are this. Costs are this. And then another section. So it's not, for super, it's not contributions and then use this product like you would get from a traditional SOA. It is, and you'll see this afterwards, like superannuation, put this much in super, open this account. It's all in one place, right? It flows in a logical way. And so I wanted this to do the same thing. So the way I've structured it is that there is sections, cash flow and debt management, and then there's strategies. And it recognizes what a living to a budget strategy is. It has context as to when to use it. It knows what to include in there, not verbatim. It just knows to make sure it include a time frame and a review. And then contextually, where there's surplus identified, state how it will be deployed. Where the client has a regular income, note that it should be based off more conservative assumptions. And this is a work in progress. It's got a good part of what we mostly use in it, and then I'm adding to it as we go.
Hey, Nathan, can I just clarify something? So this is your strategy library that will sit in your knowledge base in Claras.
Correct, yeah.
And at the top
should I show everyone where it is?
Oh, just before you do that, like at the top of this section here, you've got SOA section, cash flow and debt management. That relates to your Claras SOA template, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe to give some context on that, I'll jump into where's the knowledge base sitting? There we go. So in your knowledge base, so on your side window, knowledge base, you got here. You'll see I've got knowledge base 2.1. We've got a caps and thresholds document, which I'll talk to very briefly shortly. We've got our risk profile text that it draws from, and then our APL. We've got some compliance tools as well that I'll talk to at the end. So I just dropped them here. They're not dropped in individually into the SOAs. And as a template, you'll see, and I'll go through this afterwards, but you'll see cash flow, debt management, super and income streams, investments, estate planning, cash flow, etc. So I won't get too much in the weeds on this, but the key takeout here is if you're going to make one of these, or I'll send this around, everyone can have it. No point in doing it again if I've already done it. Candle loses nothing and all that. So recommendation, always include, contextually include. Why? We don't say reasons for recommendations, we just say why. Always include, contextually include, like how it meets one or more of their goals is just like an important thing that it seems to pick up on really, really well. Considerations, always include, contextually include. And the same thing plays through for every single strategy we have in here. The one spot I haven't quite got it working for yet, I'm still working on it, and when we do, we'll release an update, is getting it to identify when certain products are recommended, have specific features, and pick up on that text. It's not quite doing that yet. But that's an easy addition anyway. So, and this strategy guide has some, I don't know, that many strategies so far built into it. And so that sits here as strategy base. We also have that threshold checklist. This is probably more out of paranoia for me than anything. But I am, as much as I do a lot with tech, I am really funny with AI, and I also recognize that it learns things at certain points in time. And one thing it seems to consistently get wrong is the timing around concessional caps. And for some reason, it always thinks it's 27,500. So noting that, so that we always have the right numbers, we have a document that just has everything in it. And we just update that. And we use this for all sorts of stuff in the business, not just that. But this just means that it's referencing this at all times and not trying to go off its own knowledge. It's giving us a sense of security just to know that that's the case. So they're the two things we have there. Risk profiles, all this is the wording for the risk profiles. And it was one of the first things I got it to do, and it did it amazingly well. It recognizes which risk profile it is, and therefore slots in the right text, but it does it verbatim because of the way it's prompted. So that's really good. So I wanted to start here. This is the least sexy part, but this is the how it works. By articulating to it, here's the strategies, always include this, contextually include that. You are prompting it, but you're not having to prompt it every time. You are giving it the knowledge to know what approach the business takes, what it likes to have included, what contexts are relevant for the business that we run, and how we like to word things. And that's it's how we've got it to narrow down. So if we go into templates and we go into document templates, we have our standard fact file where it all started, and then we have our SOA advice one. There'll be a version of this we will make available after today. Stu's got a code that you can put in, and you can just download it straight into your Claras. It just removes all our disclaimers and stuff so that you can start working on this straight away if you want to work on it. It has the normal stuff, statement of advice, bits and pieces. We've got two practices operating within the same license, within the same system. So it recognizes who is who. Table of contents isn't quite working yet, but Stu assures me that's coming very, very soon. And then some text is verbatim with a pass-through. It recognizes goals. And one thing that's a really powerful word is this verbatim word. If you write extract from verbatim as a prompt in your templates, it does that. So I found with goals, I'll write a goal in a fact find and it was extrapolating it or rewording it, and it was in a way that I didn't like. Maybe I'm a control freak on this stuff, but I like goals written a certain way. And so I said, write it verbatim, and it did. And so what we're able to do here is we have the goal comes from the fact find. It knows what the fact find is. It extracts the description. And then I don't do this bit. It will then generate, based on the advice that's been provided, how has this client met this goal? And that comes out in a table. And add additional rows for each goal is I found that as a consistent prompt that it responds well to. You don't have to put a big table in. You just put that in there. So looking at this and saying, well, we're prompting it. I didn't even spell Phil correctly, right? This is more someone's name. Phil, the table below with goals and goals descriptions columns from that document, because we'll often have multiple versions of the fact find in there. And then in the third column, fill in that. Add additional rows. That's all it is. And it's consistently producing that. Scope of advice. This is something that I've been trying to get working for a long time because no one's good at scope of advice. But I've finally got it narrowing down to really getting specific with the scope and the way that I like it. It does elaborate a little bit more on the advice it doesn't cover, but I'd rather clip that down the way. It also identifies information that's not there and flags those things, puts in the product disclosure table. So if you drop your FSG and product disclosure documents and TMDs into the generation, it'll fill them in here. And then this is sort of our standard text. Fact find stuff, this is very normal. Notice there's no tables. It's just, hey, generate tables, list them out. Where we want a table, we put one. Where we just need something, that comes out. Risk profile, it does a great job of this. This is an example table. It fills it in appropriately every time. And it draws that text that I talked about from that file. So it pulls this from our product rec. So if you use WorldSolver, your WorldSolvers, and updates this really, really consistently and really well. But this is the crux of the document. This is the crux of, I think, the breakthrough, is because the other stuff's pretty standard stuff. As I said before, we have all of our cash flow and debt goal recommendations go in one section, and then all of our super ones go in the next, and all of our investments go in the next, etc. So this explains that. Matching up with the other document, this is for these things. If there are no recommendations, write no recommendations provided, which is actually a hangover from that was there from before conditional came about, but I've still left this one unconditional. List of recommendations, dot points, concise. Seems to pick up well on those. Use the always include and contextually include items from the knowledge base. Notice it's not even called that. I've changed the name and it still knows what we're doing here. So it doesn't have to be specific. Do not include reasons for recommendations here. It might pick on you here, Stu, but this might be something in its training. It found Claras likes to say, hey, do this for these reasons. But we actually want that in the reasons for recommendations. But since I've added that in, it stopped including them, which has been helpful. And then
Nathan, have you used the verbatim checkbox underneath the section? That's fairly new.
No, not for this stuff, because we don't want verbatim. We want to generate. Yeah.
Got it.
So it's just about those prompts and leveraging off. Read this document and include these things. So for cash flow, it's like, if we've made a cash flow recommendation, make sure that you say it's monthly, fortnightly, weekly, whatever it is. Like, put the timings around it, put the accounts around it, put these things in it, and contextually put those things. So it doesn't need, we want it to generate. We want it to be smart and do what it does best. But I do like the verbatim stuff because it just takes that bit out of the back of my mind that says, hey, you don't have to check everything to make sure it's not changed something. So, but you'll see, always include, contextually include. And the order should follow practical order of steps, which it's good at about 90% of the time, which is really helpful. Notice like the draw for modeling. So one thing I don't have for today is modeling for the cases that we're running. I'll talk about that in a second, but I drop in the modeling just as an Excel file out of Xtools Plus, and it reads it, it pulls it in, it identifies tax saved, or it like let it do what it's best at here. Always check it, always verify it. But even if you've got the bulk of it there and you just need to tweak a number, that's way better than having to type all of this out personalized every time, or paste in template text and then you forgot to fix a word or change a name. There's nothing worse than that. So consideration's the same thing. And then alternatives, the same thing. And I've just dictated here, we considered X because this, however, discounted it for that, because that's how I like to write them. In our SOAs, we're playing around with this, and I don't know if this was right or wrong from a compliance perspective, so stop paying attention if you're a compliance person. We're just sick of seeing these massive tables of alternatives in the middle of the document, so we're dropping them to the back. But insert the table from we use product recs, you could put well solver in there, showing the recommended product and like-for-like comparisons and the alternatives considered. Include all fees, do not summarize fees, because it likes to summarize. I tend to paste the product recs one in anyway, but it just puts a marker in it because I like the formatting of the product recs one. But it puts that in there, it translates it through, which I'll show you guys afterwards. And it does do a new table for each scenario. So it seems to read really well from other documents when you prompt it to. So that's the key, I think, in all of this. This is not crazy stuff. It just took looking back on it, I was like, oh, this is pretty straightforward. It was just getting the language right. And so I think the takeout for everyone here is, one, you'll get this, you can just copy it. But two, like, come from here, start here, make it better. This is a version 1. It's still not 100% perfect, but what we're trying to do with this, and what I'm trying to do with this is not remove a paraplanner from the process or AIify my whole thing. I'm trying to take what was a mail merged, very static and generic document production process and make that personalization bit happen faster and sooner, so that paraplanner can do the modeling, drop it in here, generate it, and tidy it up and send it through with much less work because it's coming out 90% ready. Super and income streams bit, because it's a product, it does have some tables in here. So the transition of money is a table that's like, before, after, change, that one. And you'll see that in a sec. And this is, I love this one here. I've left this in as an Easter egg because it's really good to pick up. Always include at least one reason for why we've done a product platform, and so this is something I'm still tinkering. And where it's not been provided to discuss, flag it in capitals. More evidence needed. So this is the start of a compliance setup where you are getting it to check and saying, hey, you haven't actually explained this well enough. You should probably improve this. And it's easy to find a giant more evidence needed in your SOA, which it tends to put in more than it doesn't. So even if you're happy with it, you can be like, shut up, I know what I'm talking about, and get rid of it. At least it's flagged it for consideration. You'll see the product section, we also have costs, and it makes comments on, and this I've said, we considered Super Fund A as cheaper by $24, however discounted because it did not meet your priority of being blue. It doesn't seem to miss out on the sarcasm in that at all. It seems to have picked up on that. So it drops in the asset allocation tables, and as I said, this is an example one. It does a really good job of that. Investments is the same, but it's now conditional. Before that button appeared, it just used to say no recommendations. And estate planning, I've got no text in it yet, and what it's generating is okay. Although I might have added that in recently, actually. I can't remember if I've uploaded that. Cash flow tables, it draws that from modeling. The example SOA we're doing today won't have that. Stu, can you just mute all for me? Thank you. And then the projections one is really interesting. And some things I've noticed about this is, again, this is not groundbreaking stuff, but below are a number of charts, with this, and this, list your assumptions, include recommended, etc. What I've noticed it's doing, like I did one the other day where it was a divorce scenario. So we had a baseline of 0. There was no point in having a current. So I said that in the prompt, and it recognized that and didn't put current in. It just put recommended and included it. So it's pretty clever in that sense. This seems to be working really well. This benefits of advice piece, this is a work in progress. It's not included in the version I'm sending you because it's not working yet. So just ignore that. And then this is our kind of fee tables and stuff, which it feeds into as well. So no disclaimers. Action items, it does really, really well as well. And I've not prompted it for this at all. So same as before, add a new row for each item and the number, who's doing it, etc. It does a really, really good job here. For a while, I had client 1, client 2, or advisor here as a prompt, and it would just put client 1 or client 2. It took it quite literally. And Stu's like, yeah, just write the client name. Like, you don't have to have it called client 1. And it started writing the client's name, which was good. And And then obviously your ATP, which has your bits and pieces, which seems to be sometimes it identifies I's and we's, and other times it doesn't. We're still working on that, Stu. So that's the crux of the document. That's the flow of the document. That's how it plays out. What I've done for today is I've made a fake client. So I've had Claude generate some file notes, well, actually some transcripts, and then I had Claras run the file notes for a 15-minute call, an exploration, a strategy meeting. It made a fact find, and we've had trade-offs. I can't tell you if there's inconsistencies. I decided to do this like 15 minutes before the session, but we're gonna work through this together. So what I do is I come into my documents and I go new document, statement of advice, and I press iterate on brief. I don't prompt it with anything. The advice process that we run, we have our 15-minute call, which many people do. We have our exploration meeting, which is your first appointment, and that's really a scoping meeting. It's an understanding meeting. It's a bit of a fact-finding kind of thing, doing long-term goals and all the rest of it. We then go to a strategy meeting. Not all advisors do this, but we do. And in that meeting, we do our trade-offs. So we look at blind versions of products, A, B, C, D, and do trade-offs. We'll confirm risk profiles. We'll look at different ways we can approach the problem with different modeling scenarios and what have you. It's a baby step. But from that step, we come out of it with, hey, we're going to do this, this, and this, and this. These are our outcomes. This is the direction we're going to go, the product we're going to go with, etc. That genuinely assists in feeding this, because instead of me coming out of that meeting and sitting there and writing out a paraplanning request, there is no paraplanning request in this process to this point. If I went external to a paraplanner, that would be something we would generate, which we do through Claras as well. But I'm having to do very little because it knows what we're doing, because it's reading and understanding that. So I just want to flag that if you've got a process where you're a big fact find and then you're trying to run an SOA and it's just not doing much and you're doing a lot of time feeding it, consider having a meeting in between where you discuss the trade-offs with your clients, and then at the end say our outcomes are we're going to do option A super and this and this and this, and it'll help this process a lot. So I press iterate and it came out with this. So we've got Lois and Clark. I had a quick read of the brief beforehand. He's been made redundant from the Daily Planet. He's got a big chunk of money coming in, and we're going to do some NCCs, establish death benefit nominations, review wills. And it's come out with this. So it's picked up on what we've talked about. It's picked up on some comparisons. Because there's some inconsistencies in it, because I just dropped a blind product recs in and said, hey, remake this for Lois. And it's like, well, you recommended net wealth, but you've told me to use the lowest option. Why is there a difference here? Things like that, it's picked up on. But it's basically summarized here, the recommendations. So I, for a while, was just prompting it. I didn't even know the iterate button was there. And I was writing in everything, basically putting in a whole paraplanning request. And then I'd start prompting it on bits and pieces. I just start with iterate every time. I press iterate, let it come up with what it's going to do. I'll alter and change what I think it needs to. It doesn't always get it right. So tweak what we need to tweak, and then it will come up with some answers. Now, do we have this? Do we have that? Etc. And this is like, notice it's asking about fortnightly. Why is it asking about fortnightly in which account? Because in my knowledge base, it specifically says, hey, make sure you know what frequency of the pension payment and where it's going. Now, it knows to use that because down here in your knowledge base, it's selected. So if you've got a huge file, like an actual file, not a fake one, if you go all, there'll be like 50 things here. So what I tend to do is I'll go unselect all straight away. I'll select the meetings because they're relevant. If I've got documents in here, I will run them from here, and then I will select the attachments. But you might have multiple versions. You might have ones from strategy meetings. You might have different stages of modeling. You don't want 18 different conflicting fact finds. You just want to pick the fact find that's relevant. And then knowledge base, we want to put caps and thresholds. We don't need the audit checklist for this one. Risk profiles and APL. APL because it...
There's a few questions around how you get buy sell costs into the document, and also another question around product details, fees, asset allocation, insurance details, that kind of information. Do you if you can just take everyone through that, that'd be good.
Yeah, okay. Let's Let's see if this is finished. I started this beforehand because it does take a little bit of time. Where are we up to? Or have you decided to freeze on me? Maybe you're frozen on me. I love that. We love a product demo. So when we do a yeah, here we go. Here's Sarah Connor. This is my other demo client. And Sarah Connor, she has Skynet Super for those millennials in the audience. This is the old version, but I know actually this one. I know this one's run. Oh, this one should have run. When we do the products, I'm going to go down to products. It puts in a summary table here, right? A short costs table because it likes the short version. If it had finished running, we'd have a product replacement there. I'll use the other one because the other one I know is finished. Costs. No. Sorry, guys. I'm just going to run through. If you tell it to put the table in and you tell it not to summarize the table, it will drop the exact table that you've told it. So if your product Rex has buy sell costs in it, which it should do, or if your wealth solver has buy sell costs and you say insert the table exactly as, like do not summarize, it will drop it in exactly as not summarized. So that's a relatively straightforward thing. It's not calculating them for you. You're feeding that information in. You're giving it, I drop in a product Rex output into it. So that's what it's drawing from. So it's not running those numbers. It's just reorganizing that data into the table to answer that question. What was the other question? I'll pull up that SOA.
The other question was when it comes to adding in the product details. This is from Philip.
Yep.
Fees, asset allocation, insurance details, etc. Where does Claras get this information from? So
okay, same thing. Yeah.
Specifically
100%.
Thinking about what information we need to get out of our CRM versus what Claras searches for.
Yeah. So I feed it what I want to use in that moment. So I think this is probably a good thing to clarify on. It knows a lot of information that it's had over that time. When we run a file, which I'd love to show you guys, but privacy, we drop in everything into this except for like super sensitive stuff, IDs, tax file numbers, etc. So summaries of super, statements, all of that goes in and we run a fact find. And so it generates our fact find for us. And that fact find is pretty comprehensive. But we also I'll also then drop in things like, we'll go back to our friends over here, see if it's still running. There you go. She had frozen on us. Only frozen because I was messing with it. It usually doesn't, just to save Stu there. If we go to Clovis and Clint, Clark and Lois, and we go to attachments, I'll show you what I've fed it. So I've given it the fact find, which this is just a summary here. It's got the goals, it's got all the information. And I've told it when we generated that document, use this fact find. I made sure I've unselected the other one so it knows what it's working from. This is the most recent set of facts, and it knows that. For product Rexes, it's got the recommendations here, and I've put in so this is the table of flow. It's got the fees in here, and there's your buy sells. So in this case, it's the product Rex has recognized none, therefore it's going to have none that come through. Does that help answer that question, guys? Is that maybe some thumbs in the comments? Is that a yes, Stu? I can't see people.
Yeah, I'm just reading through them. So yeah, I haven't had any reactions yet, but there's just some clarity around how you do the fact find. So yep, there's a thumbs up from Matteo. So I think just a bit of clarity around how you do your fact find and get that information in here.
While we're letting this do its dance, and I've just noticed, and again, this is because I decided to rush this beforehand because good on me. it's probably going to stuff up the product recommendations, but maybe it won't. Maybe it'll overdo it because it recommended in that product recs document. There's my guest. Recommended in that product recs document was a net wealth product, and we've actually changed to the Host Plus one. So, but if we go into templates, this is the fact find we use, and we can make this available too, Stu. Whatever people want to use. We've got very similar to what was there before: goals, personal information. In this instance, I'm prompting it to create columns if it's got clients and partners and things. So this is if they're employed. This is if they've got dependents. This is if they've estate planning needs, power of attorney. We do stuff with aged care. We do stuff with trusts and weird and wonderful things. So there's a lot in our fact find that a lot of people won't have. Assets and liabilities, net position. This is pretty standard. I don't think this is necessarily that groundbreaking. Making sure we've got taxable, tax-frees. It calculates the caps for us. So we'll drop in our research from product providers, statements, file notes or phone calls or whatever it might be, and it will work out what's here, and it'll fill in the available as well. Fills in the insurance information. If there's companies and trusts, fills in everything it has. If there's aged care information, fills everything it has. This is basically the way we use this is consistently and ongoing throughout the process. Once the client finishes that 15-minute call and we go, hey, we're going to work together, or we're going to set up a proposal, depending on what we're doing at that point. We get a bunch of info through our portal. The team drop it straight into a document. So they'll go into client, they'll go documents, they'll go new, they'll go fact find. And in the attachment section, they'll just drop everything we need into here. They'll drop in the statements, the pay slips, the whatever it needs to be outside of ID and TFNs. Drop all of that into here and generate this document. And then we'll use this as a stage. So we'll download it, at that point in time, we'll have a fact find. Then after our first meeting, we'll update it. We'll drop in the clarified information, we'll update a few things, we'll tweak it, and we'll have a new version. And we're building that fact find as we work. We call that a discovery process, discovery being the term that lawyers use. But that will be built and iterated on all the way until we give advice, until we get that final fact find. And this is our source of truth. This is what's this client situation. And when you run that SOA, you're selecting that final fact find. So that's the information it's going to use. Yes, it'll have context from the meetings, but it's not going to pull a statement or a balance from a meeting 4 weeks ago. It's going to take the most recent fact find as the definitive truth on that. So we use it for that. I was going to cover this in a bit. We also use it for if I go to templates again, we've got templates for, just keep playing a lot. We've got templates for like aged care, the means test forms. So it's a fact find, but it's ordered in the same order as the SA 457. Makes life easier. And for aged care steps, we use that. So we've got one that's in the same order as that. Makes that easier. We've got some quality review documentation that's doing compliance checks and inconsistencies and spelling checks on SOAs before we present them, so that if the client decides to drop theirs into Claude and comes back and goes, "This is always spelling errors," you don't feel like a dickhead. We've got some in here that we're using around like insurance policy summaries. So when the team are entering information into Xplan, they'll drop in the insurance research and it spits it out in the same order as they would enter it in Xplan. It's making everyone's life easier because we don't have obviously the data feeds on that. So I think a big part of what we use, fact finds and file notes, but using it to collate the information, always verify it, but pretty consistently really good tool to help just get bulks of information into one place, and then we check through that. So hopefully that gives some context around maybe how we got to this, which is then providing it with a fact find and the two product recs for the SOA itself. How are we doing over here? Yeah, where are we up to? Yeah, before I check this, Stu, is any more questions in the chat?
There's some questions around how you work with Xplan and how you work with your paraplanner and Claras and Xplan. So I've just been responding to those and explaining the word export, which you then upload into Xplan. So it's pretty quick to get them across into Xplan. but keen to know how you work with your paraplanner on that. Do you collaborate in Claris, or how do you?
That's coming. One of my paraplanners saw that I was running this, and she's like, "Am I out of a job?" Just straight up messaged me, and I was like, "No. The point is, you don't have to handwrite it." I think when you think about the process of, because I've been working on this, I've been tinkering this myself. I don't want to give something to someone like, "Hey, I've kind of made a recipe for a cake, but I'm not sure if we should have eggs in it or not. So, like, can you figure that out?" I want to get it to a point where it can be used, and then we can finalize bits together. From a paraplanning,
So
using a
effectively, you do your you put your strategy paper through Claris, and then the paraplanner would come in, do your modelling, do any research needed, and then create your SOA in Claris with that information.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Yep.
Is that we can they can do the provide them with the context and the paraplanning request. They're doing the modeling and what have you. They're running the product rexes. They come into here. They run this. They edit it. They run the compliance check over it, and then they provide it to us. So there's a number of things. All we're doing is we're taking out the mail merge style templated coded document, which I always find the word coded SOA is kind of ironic because it's not coding, it's mail merged. But like we take that out and we're going, let's generate one. And they're still reviewing it. They're still going to tweak it and adjust it and fix it. It's not going to come out perfect each time. Maybe we didn't prompt something well, but there's always going to be those little things. But it's what we're getting out is so much closer to a presentable document than in a faster time frame than where we've ended up in our situation. We've not got a coded SOA. We've got a coded basic fact find out of Xplan. So we use that when they fill in their portal information. We just spit that out, and that's one of the things we drop into Claris. But we don't have a coded SOA, and to get one, we're either going to spend hours or we're paying someone 10, 20 grand. And if your licensee's got one, awesome. We don't, and we just didn't see that investment was worthwhile because we're generating one way faster in a manner that is concise and that is also personalized straight away. And obviously work in progress and all the rest of it. But, I started trying to tell people about this too much because I got excited. And that's when I said to Stu, I should just do a demo to everyone instead of me wasting hours and hours one-on-oneing with everyone.
Yeah, taking phone calls. There's a question from David. He's wondering how complex an SOA you've done. So have you done multi-structure investing, company and trusts, SMSF advice? Would you potentially run different briefing contexts? So I presume what David's talking about there is different knowledge base references. I think
it's a good question. So we're running one knowledge base at the moment. I have a separate SOA for aged care. And the reason is that my aged care SOAs flow in almost a time frame instead of a area of advice structure. So it's a different approach. So we do day one, what do you need to do immediately? And it's things like fill in this form or get assessed, make this payment here, da da da. And then day two then the next step might be stage two once the house is sold or once you sold this share, whatever it might be. And then stage three is like, hey, in 6 months. So that format is different in format, but not in kind. It's using the same knowledge bases, and it seems to be working really well. It's just organizing things a little differently. It needs a little bit more guidance when it comes to the brief in terms of making sure the order of things is correct. I'd say that's the one thing I'm still working on with the time frame based. But complexity wise, I ran one with a mother and daughter as a client group, which is very rare, but they live together, they share their finances, and they've got the same trajectory and life goals. And it very clearly understood that these were two separate people who were in a single SOA document. I've run one with trusts, but not SMSFs. So there's probably some stuff that, needs to be tweaked and adjusted to. One thing I'm hoping that we get from this is, as a community, we start building out this knowledge base and we share it. Because why do we all have to rewrite the same stuff when we can share what we have? Might tweak something someone else has done because make it something you like. But, the reason I'm doing this is that we've got a bunch of people out there trying to do the same thing at the same time. And it's just silly. There's not that many of us and we don't have enough time. So why don't we share the load? And so I think, as we tweak and adjust and as we find more things, that'll be good. But I reckon it'd handle it pretty well still, to be honest, from a complexity perspective. Seems to be working. So notice straight away, it's identified that this is my advice. not Jordan's. You're still coming back to me on that, Stu. Just just letting you know.
So there's been a couple other questions. So the first one is like, what can advisors expect in terms of turnaround time? Like, how much faster is this than what you were doing? If you can just talk to kind of benefits and where you've landed with it.
Yeah, I think turnaround time is an interesting one. There's a difference between how long it takes to do something and how long the turnaround time is. I think turnaround time speaks to there's two parts. There's the ability for someone to generate an SOA very quickly, and might be in-house, might be by the advisor. And then there's turnaround time in terms of sending something to a power planner and having them get to it when it's in their queue and they get it back to you. And I think they're two separate issues. If we are looking at running this in-house and not using a power planner or having an in-house power planner, this is akin to generating an SOA out of a wizard through an X-Plan or something. You're just getting something that is far more personalized on the other side. I think that's the benefit there. So for us who don't have a coded SOA, it's faster. I'd say for someone who used a lot of X-Plan in the past and who's dealt with wizards, and you've got to add in strategy and add in strategy and add in strategy and then add in strategy, and they've got to link you're just typing it here, and well, not even, you're putting iterate and it's reading what's happened to the point. I have run it once where I gave it a brief as one of the attachments and said, this is what I want to do. It read that and then ran from there. So I think speed to generate is still faster because you're not having to click and click and click and add and click and add, and it'll personalize things for you. So you're not sitting there editing the red text. So it's definitely faster in terms of production. And that's probably a good thing.
Yeah. What about the Hayden's mentioned the review levels, like where it prompts you to review a section? In other words, like Claras will tell you where it's inferred something. Do you make use of that at the bottom of each section?
I review everything as we go. Yeah, like I'm a big one for trust but verify. Right, I'm super hypocritical on AI. I'll say so. I use it all the time and I hate it. And so I don't trust it, and I think that's a really healthy approach to have. So yes, I verify all the time. I check it, I read it, but I would do the same. I do it in the same way that I'm checking and reading someone else's work.
So at the bottom of each
better
section,
than my own, because if I write it myself, I'm probably going to miss something. So, well, do you want me to walk through it? It's finished now. I'll walk through it and people can see what's generated. Yep. With the caveat, as I said, I just generated these out of Claude like 15 minutes beforehand. So there's going to be some weird inconsistencies, but hopefully it should be a good demo of how all the outputs. And obviously, when you've got scenarios where you know the client more, where there's consistencies, where you've checked information, you've got more in fact finds instead of just running a fake client, you're going to get better outcomes. But we said before, we've got our initial section of basis of my advice. I'm going to download this while we're doing that. Retirement. That's the wording. I'll find the fact find for you. Clark has recently taken voluntary redundancy after 31 years in the newsroom. Clark has recently taken voluntary redundancy after. It's the same. So that's been a really big win for just consistency's sake. Verbatim is a good word. If you take nothing else from today, verbatim, it loves it. But look, on the basis of implementing the recommended super pension structure, blah, 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 blah. Right. Now, this SOA will also include age, but don't love that. The language that it spits out, if it's picked up earlier, sometimes in the brief, it'll say, hey, we're going to use a really lighter tone or an uplifting tone or something for someone going through a hard time or something. The language comes out differently, and you can prompt that too. I want this to be relaxed and colloquial, or I want this to be really formal and specific because I'm dealing with engineers. It'll adjust that. Your housing, there's your goal. Yes, by retaining this much in super, you can do your renovation and your trip. Investment, you each hold these funds. Yes, the platform comparison involves you moving to this for these reasons and reducing costs. Now, keep in mind, all I fed it was that, and it's low-cost index-style approach. It's pulled that from the file note that it generated. Redundancy, partly, it'll confirm the redundancy components and make some concessional contributions, estate planning. So it's done a good job on that. It's now
Nathan,
stated.
Just before you skip by there, you're going to touch on the review.
Yeah. Yep. It's stated where it got it from, and work to that. So I can hit this button, and it's happy with it, and it'll learn from that. So I would say that's correct, isn't it, Stu? It learns
Yep.
from how you respond. Yeah. So doing more of the editing in this before you download it is probably a good thing because it'll help it get better.
It's also the building block for other documents that you produce in the future. So important to have the right SOA or whatever document you're creating in Claris, so it's used as references for future.
Yeah. Cash flow, super. Investments, Centrelink, yeah, and it's clarified here what it doesn't cover. Pretty good. It loves stating this, even though we have it here. But so do some paraplanners that I've used as well. So like, it's no different to editing something you're getting back from a paraplanner. Dated on this date with 30 days. Yep.
There's a fair bit of chat around formatting. Any tips on formatting? Do you use multiple template formats or?
Let's run through it real quick, and then I'll pull it out and I'll show everyone the formatting stuff because that was something that it took me a bit to get my head around, and we'll work through that. That way I can kind of just blow through some of this.
Yeah, nice.
I'm just conscious of time. You can see we didn't put in the PDSs, so it's not read that. It's got all the client's information in here, concisely, no current liabilities, It needs to pick up on tax because we haven't fed in that information. There's our risk profile with the text from that section. Here's the Clark and Lois's tables with the accurate risk profiles, even though the template just had an example. No recommendations provided because we haven't actually made any. So it's kind of put some guesstimates in there for that one because it's not marked as conditional. But here's your super. So, hey, before this, confirm that. Nice, good pickup. Clark, make that. Lois, make that. Rollover and commence pension. Rollover and commence pension. Make the investments like this. Beneficiary nominations like that. Here's your table, straight out of Product Recs. We saw that one before. Why? So going back to what I talked about, this is the format of our SOA, and we like it this way because it's clear and it flows in a way that a conversation would flow. Going make super contribution, and then for these reasons, da 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 da. All right, now you make a super contribution, Lois, and we're gonna say the same thing again in the SOA. Take out life insurance, take out TPD insurance, take out income protection, and it's the same thing. Like you're just creating bloat. This just has clearly like, why are we doing that? Why are we doing that? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? Oh, look, more evidence needed. Because we're not giving it more backing around that. So I've made that a bit of a prompt. Considerations. There's your rules. There's your time out of market. That's interestingly one that it seems to use a really short sentence for every time because that's the sentence we used in the document. Minimum pension payments. So this is all stuff that it's picking up on from the document we've provided it, from the evidence provided. It also knows things, but it's narrowed it down. People that have run SOAs, I think one of the things you'll probably notice with this is how concise these sentences are. So this took a bit to figure it out. And then it's obviously flagged, hey, guess what? The documentation you've given us makes no sense and you actually need to do a better job of this, which of course we knew that. Alternatives. Why do we consider these products and why are they not relevant? That's not drawing that because it's not actually in the product recs because I rushed that. Estate planning. There's your bits. Superannuation. It mentioned the nominations in 2 spots. Guys, can you just mute for me?
Yep.
And there's your wheels and bits and pieces. We haven't fed it any modeling, but it will draw that. I'm glad that I can be an earpiece to someone tearing paper at the same time. That's good. As I said, this is not done, and also it has nothing to draw from, so it's not feeding in that bit. How we are paid. It's drawn that from the from here, from the fact fund. There's our disclaimers, bits and pieces, and then the action items. 0 prompts on this at all, but it's picked up on what do we need to do, and it's got that in order as well. And look, we've fixed it. It knows the I's and we's. We did it, Stu. And then it's our appendixes, key assumptions, and our product replacement tables. So someone asked before about buy sells. There they are. So Lois, remember the prompt only had put a product replacement table here. It's identified, here's 4 of them for Clark and done like-for-like comparisons of each. Buy sell fees are there. Asset allocation summary. This is straight out of the product recs. Which if I go to attachments and I click product recs, you can see that down here. So it's drawing from what you give it and translating into the document. But that stuff Claras is doing already. I didn't magically come up with that. I mean, the prompts might help refine it, but the key is always include, contextually include, and then give it the information that you want it to always include or contextually include. And it narrows it down into being consistent and concise instead of blabbing or using old rules or anything like that. It's giving you that consistency. And then if we go to this one, luckily I've downloaded enough stuff recently that there's no client information there. This is what it comes out like. So we actually just reset our formatting. So this is the default formatting. But I might do a quick thing on formatting because we were messing around with something earlier today and I forgot to upload it. So what questions were there on
couple of
formatting,
minutes? Just really tech stack. You've got Xplan, you've got Claras. What else do you use?
We use product recs. It's a little clunky sometimes, but it's good and it's free and it produces really easy to translate stuff. Take the time, if you're going to use it, take the time to get your tables the way you want them in the settings. It makes it a lot easier, better on the outputs. We use Claras. I use aged care steps for aged care work, and it reads the reports out of that really well in this. And I use Xplan for workflow and Xtools Plus. That's it. That's the tech stack.
Yeah, nice.
Very narrow. So we don't want 87,000 subscriptions coming out at Wazoo all the time. It's too much. I've got Claude and Chat as well. I guess they count.
So when you export from Claras, you've got some styles set up and you've just set the style at the template level and it will just pick up the style that it uses on export.
Correct. Yeah. So I let me just find my styles guide because I was just messing around with that. So this is our style guide. This is something that I've been ripping my hair out on and I could not figure out. And then Stu's like, oh, just there's instructions. I'm like, of course there is. And I clicked the button and it told me how to do it. Idiot. Me, not Stu. This is, so interestingly, this is Jordan's style for his brand, not mine. But it takes me 2 seconds to fix it. So the trick with this one, guys, I'm going to save you guys a bunch of time here. Don't use this. This style bit here is a waste of time. It doesn't actually do anything. You want to press this little button? Because these ones update these ones. Those ones there are only some and they don't all link. So if you click heading 1, that style comes up and you can modify it from here. So that's how, use that, not that, because I was doing it the other way and I don't know why, but this, press that little button, pop it out.
Yeah, so the trick is to update the default styles that are in Word without changing the name of them. Yeah.
Yeah. The other one is the tables. So finding that table, click table design, and you'll see this up here. Right click modify. And then, so what I do every time when I run a document is I go header row, black, okay. And I click this one and I go boom, 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 boom. And I go dum, 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 boom. And that's it. That's how long it takes me to reformat from Jordan's style guide to mine.
And then you can you could have a more advanced version with logo in your header and footer if you need for SOAs, but then strip it back for file notes.
Which is
versions.
To be fair, it's brand new that I haven't played with yet, Stu, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
I know that they came out like a week or bit ago, but haven't had time, unfortunately.
Yeah, cool.
But that's probably the other thing. One thing I'll point out as well, just these are in the version everyone will get, is that I've put in page breaks. So when you're heading in these documents, I'll go to the templates actually. Your heading line. So the one everyone will get is this one. And I've put this here, like, hey, obviously this is a fire starter. I've deleted bits and pieces. Only a fool would take this as an advice document without reviewing it, obviously. But, you know, sometimes there be fools. So you'll see this little page break thing here. This is, again, a new thing that they added in recently. You could just press this plus and that's how you set page breaks and headings and things. So you'll notice that not all of these have headings because you don't want a heading necessarily. Headings are H2. Is that right, Stu? They're H2 by default.
They are H2. That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so what we used to have in this style guide was H2. If you go modify and you go paragraph, line, and page break, you could put a page break before. That's how we used to have it, but we don't need to do that anymore. So page breaks, you can drop into where you want them by just pressing plus and selecting the right area. And I didn't know there was images and tables. Is that new?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yep.
Ooh.
So you can put in charts and graphs or whatever you need. You can also put them in your templates. So if you might have I don't know, explanatory kind of table or something at the start of your document.
I will say when we run this, so I'll drop in the modeling, either Excel file or export out of merge out of Xplan, and I'll drop in the PNGs of the charts, and it reads them. It just can't put them in. So feed it to it as well, because you'll have this much, because it'll triangulate the number and because it's smart in some ways. So you feed it everything you would put in the SOA. You just have to add a few things in at the end. So yeah, I guess that was pretty scattered, and obviously it comes with a bunch of disclaimers and things. But from here, and we'll jump into last couple of questions. But from here, I think we'll send that out, won't we, Stu? So that document, we'll get a code, and if you put that in the search bar, it'll add it to your knowledge base, just your templates. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. In the template library, I'll put the code in the chat now. But you can add that code in your document template library, and Nathan's SOA will come up. Couple other questions which we probably don't have time for, but
let's have a look.
Have you got a bit of time? There's
a couple of
one
minutes.
from Tamara with new clients. Can you see that question?
Hang on, I'm just going to find 1 second, because Tamara said at one point, no, it was Tatenda. Tatenda said they're having a combo of strawberry, loganberry, raspberry, T2 tummy, and licorice root. That is a combo. Let's get around it, tea crew. Sorry, I just had to recognize the tea drinkers in the audience. What was that one from Tamara?
With new clients, it's a question around your process. You start with your discovery file note. As you collect client data, you keep building it out, and as you move to a strategy meeting, documents are loaded in attachments, and this is where it extracts your fact find from. So I think the question is, or the answer is yes, the more information you put on your clients or into your client profile, call it a reverse fact find. It'll then build your fact find out from all that information and continue to do so.
AI is good at distilling large amounts of information into small amounts of information, right? So 15-minute call, everything we get when we download Centrelink information, everything goes in, and then we run that fact find throughout the process. If nothing else, that is hugely beneficial. It's been really good onboarding a new staff member who's not across how to read all statements, because we can rely on at least that happening while I'm teaching them how to do it separately, so that we don't have to rely on the machines. But that's probably a really powerful part.
Yep.
Is it possible to share more generic base knowledge documents? Yeah, I'll get the knowledge document, and I'm happy to share that, and the facts and figures. I'll give them to Stu to send out with the recording. What else we got in here?
Lots of thank yous for your time. Do you sync to Teams and Calendar? Yes, you can do that in Claras.
Oh,
so
yeah, that's massive time saver. Is that if you use a Teams meeting and you sync it, I can't show this to you because it's privacy. It will automatically process the meeting, so you don't have to go upload and stuff. If you have to link to Teams meeting, you'll just go in and it's processed, and you can just review it straight away. Which means I have less time to play guitar, because it's already done. I think that's pretty much
Clayton's question is just on transposing projection images into the document.
That's for you, I think.
You can drop in like an image or a screenshot, and Claras will pull the numbers from it. So try that out.
Yeah. Someone asked, so Ursula asked, any gaps you would wish someone would share with you? I assume you mean like if you go through it and you find issues, please, love feedback. This is something that I feel like as a community, Claris users, we work together and build something that works for everyone. Um, some of the concepts that I've put together here, I think this is because I'm sharing it with a few other Claris users and we're working together. And, again, like just if we got better things to do with our time than spend too long. Yeah, it's a little bit of fun, but I'd rather spend time doing other stuff. So the more we can share, the better. And if anyone wants some of the other ones, so the things like the SA457 form, I literally just like dropped the questions in and said, make this into a document, and it was right. So you don't have to use mine. It's not hard to get it to do a good job of generating useful things that you're trying to do. But I think this SOA piece was just a lot of work in terms of figuring out the language. So take that and go forth and slay your dragons with it.
Thank you. Georgie, if you need to find the template library, go to templates and then document templates and then click the browse library button at the top. And Ursula, yeah, you can create a new template from that same page. So go to templates, document templates, and then click on create new and just drop in your current template and it'll create the Claris version of that. So yeah, pretty easy to create your own and get it going.
Stu, we had a code for Challenge the Standard for people who aren't a member. They get I can't remember what it was a discount or something. CTS VIP. Is that still in place?
It is. I'll
and
just share that.
25% off or something for the first couple of months. Is that right?
Yeah. If you haven't tried
cool.
Claris, feel free to sign up. I'll share the link in here.
Michael Bloom, thank you for being so kind, and for the 7 people who liked it. He said, I've been an advisor for 20 years. This is the most amazing presentation I've ever seen. I thought I was scattered, so thank you. Yeah. One other thing that we didn't cover today, and maybe this is something for another time because we're still working on it, is we've built this compliance document that does a consistency check and does a safe harbor steps check, and deep dives into 515 level questions on product replacement. So when we get that up and running, we'll get that to everyone to share as well. Because again, compliance department should check it, but for your own use, can be very helpful.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you. Thanks, Nathan. Appreciate your insights and transparency around the process. And thanks everyone for joining us today. We'll send this out. A couple of interesting questions there about collaboration and Facebook page and so on. So we'll run through those and
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, it is. There's some good ideas there.